Oh. Okay, then I will call to order. Regular council meeting 1578 for Tuesday, March 28th. And to honor the new Watul, the village of Pemberton would like to acknowledge that we are meeting here within the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq Nation. For any members of the public in attendance, please know that this meeting is a live webinar and a recording of the meeting will be available on the village's website following the meeting. Any amendments to the agenda? None moved as presented. Caddick, seconded by Councilor Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have no rise with the report. Adoption of minutes from 1576 from Tuesday, March 7th, moved by Councilor Nightingale, seconded by Councilor Caddick. Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes from 1577 from March 14th, moved by Councilor Ramsden, seconded by Councilor Caddick. Opposed? Carries. Any business arising? None. We have no business from committee of the whole or committee minutes. So we'll go right to 9.1. Office of the CEO verbal report. CEO Tracy.
Thank you. Mayor Richmond Council, just want to express my appreciation to the operations team for the management of the water main break. Friday the 17th. So very expeditious late night response. Hopefully didn't inconvenience too much of the community, got it filled up pretty quickly. And I'm surprised things actually look better than I anticipated. I also wanted to express some gratitude for service to Ali Chappelle, Assistant Manager of Operations, who will be leading us on Friday, March 31st, so this week. And Vicka Hutchinson, our grants and communications coordinator, who will be leading us in the AFIS. That's all I have for you today.
And thanks to them as well. And yes, the crew did a great job with that water main break, and I don't think anybody noticed. What time did they wrap up? 2, 3 in the morning?
It's like 2 in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a great job. Okay. CMC PF emergency funding training application. Ms. Days, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here this morning. The purpose of this report is just to seek council support to apply to the DCM's Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, in specific the Emergency Operations Center and training stream to acquire additional EOC equipment and to facilitate another functional flood scenario exercise. So back in October of 2022, we held a multi-jurisdictional flood and evacuation exercise in partnership with the SLRD District of Squamish and some partner agencies. And the intent of that exercise was to validate emergency and evacuation plans and to practice elements of a sub-regional strategic coordination to a widespread flooding event. And after a highly successful exercise, we produced an after action report, which outlined a few opportunities for improvements in specific to both regional coordination, training and readiness, and some EOC technology. And the intent of this funding stream is to allow applicants to build local capacity through the purchase of EOC equipment and supplies, and to enhance readiness through training and exercises. So this proposed project is aimed at addressing the opportunities outlined in the after action report. And the first component focuses on acquiring some additional GIS equipment and creating contingencies for some of the technical systems to ensure business continuity. The second component is to facilitate another regional flood evacuation exercise and to further explore opportunities for regional coordinations and kind of focus on the lessons learned from the 2022 exercise. It'll provide the opportunity for village staff to continue to exercise their responsibilities within an emergency response, while also giving neighboring jurisdictions and partnering agencies experience in EOC. The regional evacuation framework and the operational evacuation plan that were developed following the 2022 exercise will also be utilized and exercised. So the recommendation is that council supports an application to UBCM's Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, Emergency Operations Center and Training Stream for funding up to an amount of $30,000 to purchase EOC equipment and for the facilitation of a functional.
Can you remind me how the last exercise was funded? Do we do this? I know it's in partnership. How about funding?
It was funded through another UBCM CEPF stream, the evacuation route stream specifically. But this one will be the EOC and equipment and training stream.
Any questions?
Move the recommendation.
Seconder. Ramsden, any further discussion? Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go on to 9.2.
So council, it is my pleasure to provide the report of Sheena Fraser, officer today with regards to the Community Enhancement Fund and requests from Stewardship Pemberton and the Chamber of Commerce Rotary event. The purpose of this report is to request funding from the Community Enhancement Fund, which you're all familiar with, to support the Stewardship Pemberton birthday event on the 22nd of April, 2023, and the Chamber of Commerce Rotary Golf Tournament in June of 2023. Just a bit of background for you, actually, because there are a couple of you who may not be familiar with this. Each year there is funding set aside for the Community Enhancement Fund and a total of $7,500. So with this request, Stewardship Pemberton is looking for an amount of $500 to support their coming Earth Day event at the 1 Mile Lake Nature Center, of which the village is an in-kind collaborator on that event. As well, then an ask of support from the Chamber of Commerce and Rotary to an amount that council is comfortable with. As far as the recommendations provided here by Ms. Fraser. Number one, that funding in the amount of $500 be allocated from the Community Enhancement Fund to Stewardship Pemberton for the Earth Day event to be held on the 22nd of April, 2023 at 1 Mile Lake Park Nature Center. Recommendation 2, that funding in the amount be determined by council and be allocated from the Community Enhancement Fund to either sponsor a tree box or tee box or player registration or both to support the Pemberton and District Chamber of Commerce and Pemberton Rotary Club annual golf tournament to be held on June 22nd, 2023. And recommendation 3, that consideration be given to reserving some funds from the Community Enhancement Fund in the amount to be determined by council for an annual contribution by the village to the Watt Christmas Bureau and Pemberton Food Bank.
Thank you. Questions? Thoughts? So I'm just trying to get back to the page here in terms of total funds. Do we want to break it down one by one and look at the Stewardship Pemberton request to start? We'd like to move funding that request. Mr. Kalik, second it. Mr. Rabson, discussion, any opposed? Motion carries. Just trying to find what we did for last year for the results. It was 500, so we didn't do the T-box or we didn't do
You get a tee box recognition in one player.
one player. Okay. Any thoughts?
Is it possible to see what Rotary, where they what they support within the community, just on an annual basis? Is there an opportunity to see them? I'm just curious.
We could request a Rotary.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see what they support and throughout the year. think it would be interesting to see.
I don't have the full scope of that in front of me, but they do support a lot of different.
Yeah, no, I know that, yeah, I was just, it would be interesting. to see.
Yeah. And in the past too, we've sent even some extra players, in particular for the golf tournament.
Yeah, no, it's a great
I thought we
fundraiser.
paid for a foursome last year, didn't we?
Nope.
No, just as well.
We used to do a foursome, two from here and two from the regional district, and
Right.
used to split it. But if I might, one thing Rotary is doing, I think they're contributing, if I recall, about $40,000 to the amenity building. And that's why it's being named after them. So that's a major project for them.
Yeah, and that's sort of my point. I would love to just see what they do on an annual basis, because I know they do a lot, but I never see it all in one page, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it would be
Perhaps
interesting.
if council should wish, maybe we can have a delegation come from Rotary to give us a little bit more of a preview as to what they do. But, maybe you can speak to this more. I'm not sure about the naming of.
We said there would be some naming of the building, there would
Okay.
be some recognition of Rotary on the building. I mean, there was a lot of discussion about, well, we call the whole building Rotary, there's other contributions being made, so there was conversation around that, but we definitely agreed that there would be some sort of acknowledgement of the Rotary on that signage, whether, I don't think we ever decided what it would look like,
But just to clarify, in terms of their general fundraising, of course, most of that goes to scholarships. Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I would move that we contribute the same amount as last year, $500, and there's one golf thing put up. I don't know if administration wants to do a draw process from staff. I go to volunteer, so I'm already going to be there, so I don't know if we want to throw that out as an idea.
I believe that's usually the approach that we would take.
Yeah.
So I'll make that recommendation.
Okay, moved by Councillor Stratton, second by Councillor Mangill, any opposed, motion carries. My son's informed me that I'm putting in a foursome and playing with him. Yeah, I can train the test. We'll appreciate that. I'm gonna get all your merit golf course to turn out all. Big golfer. Then in terms of the reserving funds back for. Is it a matter of actually reserving them, or, I mean, we have some left in the fund, we normally do when we get around to that period, is it just a matter of bookmarking so we don't run out?
Yeah, I think this is just making sure that that's consideration,
Sure.
as you go through the dispensation of these funds.
Okay, so would we like to bookmark some money in this fund for? Sorry, it was the Christmas basket, what was the other one?
The Christmas Bureau and the Temple Food Bank.
Food bank. Would we like to bookmark some of these funds?
Well, last year was 500 and 500 for each.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was 1,500, oh, sorry, yes, that's correct. 500.
Is there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, seconder. Mr. Ramsden, any discussion? Opposed, motion carries. Okay, thank you. On to 10 bylaws. There's a report 10.11, pretty short. Councillor Ramsden and I attended the special previous meeting to approve the fire rescue budget. That's been done, dusted. Really just a couple of reminders, this Thursday, starting at. Comes the open house start at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And the community forest.
Oh, actually, it's where I've got it down here right now. It's 6:30 room D.
6:30. So that's a great opportunity. I'm hoping to see some, if not all of you out there. March 31st is the grand opening of the Foundry Sea to Sky in Squamish. I can pass on if you like. We're all invited to go down to the opening. The Foundry is providing mental health and substance use services, primary health care, social service, recreational services. It's a really neat model. Minister Whiteside, Minister Health and Mental Health and Addiction will be there. She sent me an invitation as well, and so passing it on to all of you guys. It's at 11:30 in Squamish. If you'd like to check it out, and maybe, I was talking to some of the Sea to Sky Community Service staff about it, and, if you guys are down there, there's also the ability to check out Foundry and affordable housing complexes, because it's a similar construction to what's can be proposed here, I believe, so. 11:30 down in Squamish. 4th, 5th, as we all know, is the housing forum. I don't know if everybody's put in for what if they want to go. Reason I haven't, and I guess I'll talk to you after I'm offline about it, is it's also the next day, 5th is the OCP and Pemberton Secondary.
Oh.
I know.
I booked
That's
it.
why I'm not going to. Oh, okay.
So I don't know, that's kind of torn. So anyway, think about what you guys want to do. You can still register if you want for the housing forum, but yeah, PSS OCP is on 5th. Really, that's all I got from my report and council reports.
Did you want to the request?
Oh,
This morning.
I did. Did you?
I did send that out to everyone.
Okay, so,
Or-
yeah, sorry, as part of that, CAO sent out a letter on my behalf from, let me just get it up here. It's gonna be wrong, it's hyphenated. You send it out?
Yes, it was this morning, 7:32.
So CAO and I work, I send emails at 11 o'clock at night, she's forwards at 7 in the morning.
Ships passing. The title of it is advocacy letter within 2 weeks.
So if you guys want this, you might not have a chance, you want to just take a minute here and have a quick read of the letter, because it'll do a better job explaining. I met with Dr. Excel and their partner, when, yeah, no, I was just trying to think of when, I'm gonna say it's 6-8 months, if not longer than that, maybe even a year ago, that she approached myself, Mayor Whistler, et cetera. And they were just trying to get more orthopedic care up here and a job sharing sort of set up. Both of them are both doctors are parents, and trying to provide the care up here, but have a bit of a life as well. They're overworked essentially. So this proposal, they put this proposal for quite a while ago, and BCH shut it down. That's when they came to us for a little support. And what it comes down to is a tug of war essentially between staff at Lionsgate Hospital and Sea to Sky Corridor in terms of resources I'm not entirely sure really why there's reluctancy. There's barely any more resources being added to the corridor. It's more of a job share than it is, like it's more people, but it's job share percentage more than it is actual added resources. But I think she spells it out pretty clearly there. Bottom line is there's a push from staff at Lionsgate to have an orthopedic surgeon an additional orthopedic surgeon at Lionsgate, and it seems to be coming at the expense of orthopedic care in the corridor. I don't know why it's a one or the other scenario. But yeah, that's basically where it's at. I'm forwarding this on to the hospital district board and the SLRD. Similarly, to see if there's a desire to put a letter of support, but yeah, I don't know if you have any questions that I can answer. But I think I'm personally in favor of supporting this initiative. And I mean, we're trying to keep people trying to provide more care in the corridor rather than sending more folks down Lionsgate. I believe that's one of our main goals here. So, and as we know, there is no regional transit. Some people just don't have the ability to access these services. So, yeah, I would be in support of putting a letter together if the rest of you are. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. As the population grows in the corridor, and that's basically from Port Oco, Britannia Beach, and all the way up to Little Butt. The numbers are growing very large. I mean, we have 23% increase over the last couple of years. So I think we need to start supporting more of that services in our corridor, rather than, like you say, sending people down to Vancouver, and some just don't have the ability to get down. So, yeah, I'd certainly be in favor of this, and any further support for more services provided in the corridor, I think would be beneficial for all the communities.
Okay, and in terms of your second comment, there are more services. As I mentioned before, the master planning process is about to begin with VCH, and that's my main focus. And if there's more than you'd like me to bring, my main focus is the eventual expansion, hopefully sooner than later, of our clinic and the services that we can provide up here, as well as I think it's really important that we continue to build up and support SG as Squamish General Hospital. We can't provide all the services here locally, even if we do expand. So those are some of the biggest things that I'll be. Okay, would you like to make that motion?
Yes, I would.
Your letter of support. Second by Mr. Nightingale. Any discussion? Opposed? Motion carries. Is there enough for your staff to work with? Okay. Thank you. And that's it from the mayor's report. Any council reports?
Thank you, Mayor Ritchie. Just a quick one. Pemberton Valley Diking District on March 16th. A couple of things came out of there. They talked about the work in progress, and that's got a lot to do with Miller Creek and Pemberton Creek and doing the flood mapping information that's going on. They're looking at Mount Meager and the plant phase 2 and how that might be funded and how that's going along. Pemberton Creek sediment trap, they're doing some work on that to try and get that sorted out. But as usual, there's issues with fisheries, getting the window of opportunity that's in there. And where it looks like they want to do some clearing is up near the SLRD building, or joint building up in that area. So that's above the fish window area. So that could maybe go ahead. As you
outside the fish window?
I'm sorry.
That outside the fish window?
No, it's outside where the fish go.
Oh, I see.
They usually go to about the rail bridge and don't go above. So if they do the work up by the SLRD building, the feeling is it's outside that. I shouldn't say fish window where fish move up to. They've started the sediment removal. I don't know if anybody's seen the huge piles of material that's already on the dikes around town and stuff. So that's in good progress. And they've chosen July 13th of this year for their AGM. It'll be at the community center. And that's it for the day. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Arts Council has they've got some funds for Mountain Muse grant. So the Mountain Muse Festival hopefully is going to go ahead. And they got funds to return their ED, which is great. Anna is fantastic. And it would have been a shame to lose her. I was on a call with Climate Caucus, which is across the country with mayors and elected officials. Yeah, across the country, and it was a really interesting call because often I can't go to them because they're 11 on a Thursday and I work then, but it was really interesting because a lot of the people that attend these calls are rural, they're small towns, they're not the big towns or big communities, and there was definitely a sense of urgency about how do we move at the pace we need to move based on, you know, the new intergovernmental report on climate change. And in these small towns, when we're surrounded by forests and mountains, it seems there's a bit of a lag in the smaller towns. That's what everyone's sentiment is. And that in a lot of the climate action plans, ecology and biodiversity is left out. And we need to address that. That's sort of the overriding sentiment. And I find that these calls are really interesting because it's a really great way to tap into other communities across the country, not just in our small area. So if anyone has a chance to go on those calls, it's not at a good time, but it's really interesting. And the library is extending their hours. I can't quite remember. I think they're extending Saturday night. I can't quite remember what it was, but it's great. They've done a survey and that's what people wanted. And so they're going to be extending for Saturday night.
Not Sunday then?
No, they can't do Sunday. Because they don't have two people they can have at the same time. And they can't have a house.
And through the chair, that'll also be tied in with the extension of hours at the community center, which is slated for the fall.
Is it 2 bodies in the building or 2 bodies in the library?
2 bodies in the library. Anyways, that's positive. And that's it. Yeah.
The only thing is that I will be attending both days of the housing summit. I did not realize there was a conflict on the 5th, but so far nobody is going on the 5th. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but if I go and then. Because there aren't any more open houses planned for the OCP, correct? Like that was that's it in terms of. Yeah.
I think it's I mean, there'll be many of us that be on the 5th. I think it's great that you're going.
I think it's
Yeah,
gonna be a good
yeah,
one.
it's awesome that I'm going on the 4th, you're going the 4th.
Yes.
Any of the 5th.
I registered it because I've been
Yeah.
torn between these. Awesome, thank you. Okay. Correspondence for action. First one is from Jennifer Johnson regarding the relocation of Nature Playscape. Our correspondences on this, just do we need to do a motion? Are they automatically being sort of put into the whole engagement piece on this project or?
At this juncture, they're just coming as they come along. So with this, it would just be a request to council or staff to respond, and in which we've been responding, letting people know that there will be engagement coming.
Okay, I just wonder if, like we did with a couple other things, do we collect anything that has come in and might come in between now and then? Included as part of the package?
Yeah, we certainly could do that if that would be council's preference to have it all regathered of both what has already come and then anything that comes further to that.
Seems to me that we want to have all of our engagement correspondence in one place in that report, so the motion to include this, any previous and any future correspondence on the issue as part of the report and brought forward to council.
We can split that.
That seconder, any discussion? Go ahead.
Can I just ask what timeline we're looking at to have this sort of dealt with?
Yeah, sure. It's already in progress in terms of the draft of everything. Ms. Burns has been away on holiday, and so we will be able to bring back the draft plan for the engagement as well as the survey to council in the next couple of meetings. So I haven't gotten to talk to her yet. She just returned today in terms of whether that would be this next meeting or the last meeting in April. So.
And do we have any idea what that engagement will look like? Or is just it?
Come back to us.
Okay,
Yeah, it
so-
will come back to
And
you,
then we'll
but
decide if that is the way we want to proceed. Okay, got it.
exactly, yeah. We'll get there soon, I
Yeah,
promise.
okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? On question, any opposed? Motion carries. Next one is from Kimberly Jones, Board Chair of the Permanent Children's Center, requesting affordable housing agreement with Sea Sky Community Services. I assume this would be a direct conversation between the Children's Center and Sea to Sky Community Services, since we're not really in control of the housing and allocation, but unless I'm missing something.
That would be the case as it stands right now.
So maybe a motion to direct staff to respond and connect the Children's Center group with the appropriate Sea to Sky Community Services staff.
I just have a question. So in that particular situation, because what comes to mind for me then is other groups in town, like teachers, how does it? Would that decision be based solely on Sea to Sky Community Services, or do we have any input as a council on moving ahead on that and the other essential workers that we have in town beyond healthcare workers
I mean,
or childcare workers?
and you can tell me if you think otherwise. My quick reaction to your question would be, we can provide some input in terms of wanting to support certain critical services, but I think there's a lot of them.
Oh, I know.
I
That's,
know. But ultimately, it is Sea to Sky Community Services that makes the allocation decisions based on their project. I don't know if more of the agreement is, or when more of the agreement is coming for us to look at in terms of how those allocations are done. So we will be able to weigh in, I believe.
There will be an opportunity for input on the agreement. I think that it's at that point at which you will get the opportunity to.
How much we drill down in terms of the specific, like this group, that group, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not too sure, but we will be able to see what they're proposing for how they allocate the housing. Does that make sense?
makes total sense. Yeah. I just feel that the input is important to have. Yeah.
Call the question, any opposed, motion carries. A follow-up thought to this as well, I'm wondering if we want to get an update, if they want to come visit us, when I say they, I'm talking about the Children's Center. Maybe the board chair, in terms of telling us how they are approaching staffing moving forward, knowing that we're gonna have all these spaces. Like, I really don't want to end up in a position where we build this thing and we can't staff it for a number of months or whatever it is. So I'm wondering if we want to just invite them here for an update in terms of their activities and maybe how they're considering filling these soon to be positions.
The chair staff just recently met with them exactly on this topic, and I can have a conversation with the team to see if this is a possibility, if they're at a point where they'd be willing to come back and have a conversation with council.
Yeah, I like that, because if they are struggling in any way, if there's any way we can provide support, whether it's reaching out through Appointment BC or whatever it is, I know there's like programs connecting with other folks for training, whatever it takes, housing. But I'd be interested in hearing where they're at and any challenges that they're having that we might be able to help with. Okay,
Their correspondence would indicate that they have concerns about that.
exactly. Okay, do you want a motion to that effect?
Yes, please.
So a motion to direct staff to, are we inviting them or did you want to follow up first?
Let us follow up first, if
Okay.
possible, just to
Okay.
see what their availability would be and if they're prepared at this point to have that conversation.
Okay, so motion to direct staff to connect with the Children's Center Board to discuss future employment opportunities. Moved by Councilor Nightingale, seconded by Councilor Craddock. Any opposed? Motion carries. 13.2 correspondence for information. Would anybody like to pull anything out?
Receiving Bob.
And a seconder? See, Councilor Nightingale, any opposed? Motion carries. Decision on lake business. Lake business, we have none. Notice of motion. Question period. Regular meeting is now open for questions from the public. Please be reminded that only questions directly related to items discussed during this meeting are permitted. If any members of the public attending via Zoom wish to ask a question, please click on the raise hand feature. And this will notify staff that you'd like to ask a question. Really? Get 10:15 in the morning, we don't have a lineup of people ready to ask questions? All right. Then a motion to go on camera, please. Got it, seconded by Councilor Ramsden, and opposed. Motion carries. Don't have a cheat sheet.